l'enfant-midi.
Now that we've all eaten, we're going to be able to digest while I talk. So you're in the right position, I'm not, okay? I'm reminding myself of that because I don't do talks in English a lot, so I'm going to try. I'm going to talk about what an entrepreneur mindset is, because I think it's a concept that we talk about a lot, like you have to work on your mindset, but what does it mean? What does it mean to be an entrepreneur? What does it mean to be a successful entrepreneur? And in the end, what does it mean to be a very fast entrepreneur? I think, personally, that it's all about the learning curve. The faster your learning curve, the steeper your learning curve, the better your company. Because in the end, it all depends on you, and it all depends on the people you work with. I like to say that entrepreneurship is not about the entrepreneur and his employee or her employees, you know? Because like last time I was giving a conference to students, and my objective in life is to break the education game and to replace school with something better. But the first step of that is to try and teach people to build companies that they're proud of, with Koudetat, my company. And people were like, yeah, but if you succeed in your mission, that means there's going to be only entrepreneurs and no one to employ. I was like, yeah, okay, we're far from that, you know, like let's take a step back first. But I really think that entrepreneurship is a game that's played as a team. And that means that your learning curve as an entrepreneur is important, but that the learning curve of all the other entrepreneurs that are in your team is also important. So first, if you want to talk about learning and what learning means, we must go to a biological level. You can imagine that your body is full of electrical currents, okay? So that means that when you do something, there's an electrical impulse that's sent from your brain to some part of your body to activate something, like a movement. Like if I move my arm like this, which I do a lot when I talk like that, if I do that, it's because my brain is able to send an electrical current through my body, and I can move my leg and I can do something that looks like that. Then that explains pretty much everything we are able to do as human beings. That explains that we are able to move, that we are able to talk, that we are able to have a short-term memory, that we are able to have feelings, to have thoughts, everything. But it doesn't explain why we are able to learn complex stuff, like complex activities. Which brings us to a discovery that was made in 2008 by neurologists, and it's a substance that we didn't know the existence of until 2008, which is called myelin. Myelin is a substance that's generated that when every time you do something, you can imagine myelin, the current comes, and it builds little sausage-like shapes around your electrical currents, around your neurons and your synapses. And it means that the next time you're going to do that same thing, it's going to be easier, it's going to be faster, and it's going to be more powerful. In other words, that means that every time you do something, you get better at doing that thing. So the whole goal as an entrepreneur, and as in any discipline, is just to get it the right thing once, and then to repeat it a lot until it becomes natural, because that's what happens. Like for example, there's something we hopefully here have all in common, which is walking. Yeah, sometimes I do that in conferences, and yeah. But walking is hard. Like walking is like putting your weight on your right leg, then on your left leg, and it's a hard process. Like you can see children, it's very hard to get right. But in the end, there's an adult to take your hand and to get you through maybe doing it with the hand, and you do it right once, and your body prints it. And then you do it once, you do it right a second time, and your body prints it. And then at some point, it's natural to walk. That explains why you can see so many entrepreneurs that look like stellar, you know? You're like, oh, fuck, they're geniuses. And I've always been interested in geniuses in my whole life because I was like, fuck, I want to be one of those. But obviously I'm not. So what makes them geniuses? Is it something that they were born with, or is it something that they learned? And the answer is, in 100% of the cases, they learned it. And being a successful entrepreneur is a different set of skills, and it's all about training. Because when we talk about learning, about a learning curve as an entrepreneur, we don't talk about learning in books and reading as much things as possible. Because when you do that, you just train your brain to, like you just build myelin on the circuits that mean that you gather information, which is not the most important thing as an entrepreneur. We often say that being a bit dumb helps in being an entrepreneur because it enables you to not see the hard truth that you can't understand anything about the world around you, but you have like approximative models that you can use to build a story that helps you move forward even though everything seems doomed from the beginning. So what are those skills? What are the skills you need to train as an entrepreneur? Well, it's pretty much everything, but there's a set of skills that you need to get right more than the others. If you think about your company as blocks, if you think about your company as a game, because I've been telling that to some of you since this morning, you're not your company, you're building your company, it's something outside of you, and you should try as much as possible to regard it like as something that's outside of you, with no ego, because if it becomes you, every mistake you make, every critique you got from one of your users is going to become personal. That's why we say don't take it personally at the family. And you're not going to be able to watch it objectively, and you're going to just make choices that make you feel good, and oftentimes they're not the right ones. So if you think about your company as a game like this, a company is always different blocks. So oftentimes for all of us here, because we kind of have tech startups, there's a product, and building a product requires a specific set of skills. This set of skills is like UX, UI, so design. It's like engineering, it's like data, it's like product management, so prioritizing, talking to users. There's a whole set of skills that you need to train, and you need to just talk to the users more if you want to get better at talking to the users. Remember myelin, all the time. Then maybe you have an acquisition channel, and that acquisition channel is going to enable you to have different points of contact with your users, with your audience. For example, here I put one acquisition channel that I work with, which is a content strategy. Content strategy for us, it's doing a lot of video, so that means you have to learn how to make videos, you have to learn how to distribute them, you have to do copywriting if you want to make posts on Instagram. There's a set of skills again. Then if you want to build a growth machine, like if you want to make experiments all the time to see what's going to be put in the product that's going to work or what's not going to work, so you can have growth again and again, it's going to be a different set of skills. And the answer to my first question, which is what is the actual set of skills you need to learn as an entrepreneur, is pretty much all of this. But you don't have to become a specialist in everything, because it's not possible, first. You have to become a generalist if you're a CEO, and you have to become a specialist if you want to dig into one subject more than the others. The whole deal with building a company, and that's why it's called a company, it's because, again, it's a team game. That means that you need to learn those skills, at least superficially, so that you understand how they work and what they mean in terms of time invested, in terms of value provided, in terms of everything that it means to do that stuff, and then delegate it. Well, there's supposed to be photos in those circles, but I didn't have time this morning. So imagine those white dots as members of your team, which bring us to, on top of the set of skills you need to learn, one exceptional skill that's very hard to master, which is delegating. Because delegating is one of the hardest thing to do because you need to let go. And as human beings, we love control and we hate to let go. So one of the things you can take as a rule to train delegating is first, do the job yourself, at least badly, but do it yourself because you're never going to be able to understand. So I don't know, if you want to delegate coding, maybe take at least a few coding classes online or on Code School or on Codecademy, at least a bit to understand the mechanics behind it, because it's not that complicated. Like nothing is very complicated in those skills. Like making video, it's just like splitting clips and sticking them together. It's not really hard, but you need to understand the concept of it. And when you find someone that you think is going to be better at those skills, enable them to build a new version of what you did. Okay, for example, product is one of my main areas, personally, And I hired a head of product 1 year ago, like he arrived in January. And until now, I was always on his back. And I was always like, okay, you're great, you're head of product, here is your sprint, but let me review it and let me micromanage you so I can be sure I'm in control of everything that happens in the company. At first it was great, but then I had to do the same with the content strategy with the girl who is doing the videos. So I was like, yeah, let me micromanage you. And then I did the same with the growth, and then I did the same with the other acquisition channel, and then in the end I can't do everything. Which brings us to why you need to delegate things, and the best way to do that is to enable them to create a new version of what you've been doing and become a customer of your own company. Like for me, building product, 2 weeks ago, I told my head of product and I came to him and I was like, okay, so from now on, and it cost me a lot of emotional stuff to tell him that, it's your product, it's not mine anymore. I'm gonna become a customer and I'm gonna give you feedback and I'm gonna do what Steve Jobs used to do, which is be the most demanding customer of your company. Because if you're that, as an entrepreneur, you can take a step back once again and judge your product without ego. Because what happens inside your company is not important. How your company is perceived by your customers is the most important thing. It doesn't matter if you have cables everywhere on the ground in your office because it's shit and it's complete chaos, as long as your customers think that you're doing okay. You just have to make sure of that. And the thing is, by delegating, you're not just only doing that to take holiday. I mean, it's great too, but you're not doing just for that. That would be building a muse, like building a passive business where you have people working for you and it's great because most of the things are automated and it's great. That enables you to build more blocks, to build more acquisition channels because there are 19 acquisition channels, and to create new products that you can launch, and to build a hiring machine so that new people come in your company and you onboard them completely, and maybe you're going to take all of that and replicate it in other countries and internationalize your company and build the empire you're dreaming of. Okay? Everything about that sounds relatively easy. Because I really think, after seeing thousands of entrepreneurs and hundreds of them who are really successful, that it is. It is really successful. I got an email. It is really successful. It is really simple, but at the same time, it's really hard because there's a lot of emotion involved, and learning those skills takes time. It takes a lot of time, but there's a way to hack the way you build myelin. And it works in 100% of time, maybe not 100, but it works most of the time. It's a simple cycle that enables you to build the most myelin possible. The first step of this cycle is to observe. Observe what's actually happening in your market for your customers and what's actually happening outside of the people who think what's actually happening. For that, I mean, like what I've been telling all the people I've been seeing this morning, talk to your users. Talk to your fucking users. Talk to your users. The second you stop talking to your users, you lose. Because you're fighting a war for your company to win, and a war is won over information. And the only information you need comes from your users. If you don't speak to them, it's not gonna work, so never stop doing it. Observe all the time. Observe, observe, observe. When you've observed enough, because you're not gonna get stuck into just observing or you'll become a scientist, brainstorm. Think about ideas. I've observed problems. I've observed emotional frustration. I've observed motivations from my users. I've observed how the market works, how I can make different information connect together so I can have an opportunity, and I'm going to think of what I can implement. And then you do it. You build and you release. And I'm going to insist on that the same way I say talk to your users. You build and you release. I see too many people going to events like this one and getting a lot of ideas, like a lot of input from people who didn't observe as much as they did, and who get stuck in the build phase. If you just build and you never release, you're never able to finish the loop. You're just building and taking ideas from people who have a wrong sense of what the reality is, and you're just like keep building, because be careful. Like this event is great, but it's addictive. It's really addictive to just brainstorm. It's really addictive to just have ideas. As an entrepreneur, having an idea is the last thing you need. Like everybody thinks it's about having the greatest idea on earth. You're all past that idea, okay? You're all past that thing. You've all started to do something. But still, if someone comes to you and tells you, oh, but you should add that to your blog's game, they're probably wrong. And you're probably right about saying, no, I'm gonna focus. Because focus is so important, and you need to release. You don't need to just build, you need to release, and that's saying no to everyone who comes with a new idea. Because ideas are poison. And plus, like, you pretty much know what you're doing. Like last time, I was with a bunch of entrepreneurs, and a guy comes to me. And I tell him, yeah, so I sell education programs, and it's going great. And he says, yeah, how many did you sell? Well, yeah, 300. Yeah, great, okay, what are your acquisition channels? So I explained to him, and he's like, you know what you could do? You could do Facebook ads. It would be great. And I'm like, come on, what level of respect do you have for me? I'm teaching people how to build companies. What a great idea! I could do Facebook ads. Thanks for the input. And he told me, yeah, no, but you know, it could really be great because think about the future, like you could have another acquisition channel and it works so great for my company. And you know what happened? I told him, yeah, maybe you're right. And I spent 2 days trying to put up Facebook ads, and I realized, no, I was right, because I don't have the time. We are 5 in the team. If we want to do the job properly, build and release, I can't do 7 things at the same time. So focus, build, and release, and most of the ideas you're gonna get, you can get them online. How to find customers. It's not the hard part. The hard part is doing it, building and releasing. And when you've released, you take feedback. You take feedback because feedback enables you to do it a bit better next time. And that's where you build the good myelin. Because if you build myelin just in brainstorming, if you build myelin just in taking feedback, well, you never build the good myelin in building something that's needed from your users and from your customers. That's why, again, events like this one can be addictive because they remove 2 of the steps of the cycle. You're just here to brainstorm and to take feedback. So ask yourself, what's the feedback you want to get? I wanted to do this talk this morning before you got to the office hours, but now you can reflect on it. I'm giving feedback to you about how you approach this event. What are you gonna ask us? Are you gonna ask us to give you feedback on things you did so you can improve them a bit? Or are you gonna ask us for brainstorming, which is completely new ideas? Are you lost completely that you need new ideas for your business? Or do you need just feedback on what you've been doing to do it better? And sometimes it's gonna be brainstorm, and sometimes it's gonna be take feedback, and you need to be able to discover that. And we can help you also discover that, because that's how it works. That's how it works. And if you do that cycle enough, you train. You train as an entrepreneur. And I love to say that as entrepreneurs, we are like the same thing as high-level sports people. Like we just need training all the time. And it's really hard and it takes a lot because we're not here to just play sports in a club once in a while. We're here to actually go to the Olympics. So what about we try? So yeah, just build yourself for success. Build yourself for success because it's the most important thing you can do. And I really think you're in the right place to do that because I've been at the family for 5 years, maybe a bit more than that. When I arrived, I was 18, and they took me in, and I was like an arrogant prick, maybe I still am a bit, and like I thought like I didn't get why everyone already thought that I was the best in the world, you know, and they took me in. And they provided me with feedback all the time. Like Balthazar over there, like provided me with feedback all the time. Usama, who's not there, Alice, who's coming tonight. They all provided me with feedback until I became the version of myself that's built for success. Like I built a company, I built a company when I arrived. We raised 5 million euros. It was all rockstar shit and everyone was really happy. We became even more arrogant than we were. We made a lot of mistakes, of course, and we went from having raised 5 million and being the best rock stars in the world to having opened like London and Paris and Brussels, 3 cities, 25 people, to having to fire 20 of those people and close 2 cities and come back to Brussels as 5 people. And then I got completely depressed and I couldn't get up and I couldn't get out of bed. That's why I want to talk about mental health with you in the unconference tomorrow. And the family was there all the time until I got back on my feet, and now I'm building a business and I'm building myself for success. I'm never gonna be done because right now I don't have the success like that. I don't have that. I have maybe that unearned confidence, but in the end I don't have the success. I can't tell you what's great, what's not. I can tell you though what mistakes I made, and I can help you avoid them so you don't have to go through the same steps I did. And I think everyone that you can talk here can provide them that too, can provide that to you too. So make the most out of it because you're in the right place. Thank you very much.
Family.